Hey, Rebecca Bull.
Hi, we got it to work.
Yes, we're gonna do it this way instead and make this kind of, go onto the Facebook page, but not do live. But that's okay because when life gives us lemons, we make lemonade, right?
Yes.
Yes. So thank you for your patience with those technical difficulties.
Yeah,
So,
that's fine.
so if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of just share how long you've had a life coach, what initially made you get into hiring a coach.
Hmm. So Becca Bowlin, and let's see, life coaching. I was life coaching teenagers on my job with Young Life New Zealand, and um, part of the requirements for that was to get a life coach. And they set me up with someone. They said, try her out, see what you think. And I was just thinking in my mind, I know what she's gonna do. I know what she's gonna ask me. I know the lowdown. Like, I don't need this. I'm okay. Like, I've got all my people that I talk to. I don't really need a life coach. And then in the first session, I was in tears. And I was like, oh, hey, maybe I need a life coach. So that was like right before the pandemic hit. So probably it was 2019 we started with, or maybe early 2020, and we had done our first session, and then we were going to meet in person, and then that never happened. So it was always over Zoom like this. But yeah, she quickly made me realize, my own brain and emotions made me realize maybe I do need to talk to someone. So that's kind of how it got started. Sure.
Yes. Okay. So that's fun because you're like, actually, I didn't see that on my own. I was forced into it for my job, but
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. So, and that was a different coach. So, how would you say, and just for those watching, this is how we do our coaching. So, literally, our session looks like this, where we're side by side and we can see each other. You can do your phone, you can do your laptop, and even people that live, close by me, a lot of times prefer Zoom just because of the convenience of it. So, I can also do in person, but most people prefer Zoom. So, just kind of like this. So, we're going to do a session just like we would once we get through some of these questions. So, how would you say that my coaching is different than the initial coach that you started with?
Mm, I mean, I see a lot of similarities for sure. Um, just life coaching in general is about not just like venting or complaining about your problems, like with your friend, but like saying, here's what's really on my heart. And then you guys are there to be like, okay, well, let's like think about that, or let's turn that around, or like, what are you going to do? What is bad about that, or what is good about that? And I just feel like my thoughts are so unorganized a lot of times. I just feel really frantic in my brain. And sometimes I have a thought I want to process and I can't. And then your styles are a lot the same. Let's see. She had a totally different accent than you because we were in New Zealand.
Right. She got me on the accent.
But a little different. I didn't know her, but see, I thought it might be different because I know you and we've known each other for a while. But it's different when you go into that coaching sort of mode with someone as a life coach. It's about, okay, let's listen to you and then let's redirect your thoughts and let's keep going down this path. It's not just sort of talking for an hour, but really trying to get to an end goal or make
Yeah.
some make some progress in something. So a lot of similarities, but even though we know each other, we have you're very professional in that we're friends, but you can turn on the, okay, now it's time to actually have some coaching with you, which I really appreciate about that. Just the difference of chatting to a friend versus like having life coaching.
Yes, because thank you for saying that, by the way. So, as a friend, we could talk about the same issue,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be totally different than if we talked about the issue and use that as a coaching opportunity.
Yes.
Friendship, you're commiserating. You're like, oh, I've been there too, and that's really hard. And you just kind of sit in that. In life
Yeah.
coaching, you sit in emotions somewhat, but you also are moving forward and looking at it from a different perspective. And I'm using tools with you versus friendship. We're just, connected, and they're both needed, but
Yes.
one is a more professional approach.
Yeah. And a productive approach in a different way than just venting to your friend or crying about something, or like, I don't know what to do, I'm panicking. It's a different, because we're coming at it from an approach of let's see where we can move next or move forward.
Yes. Yep. And identifying the thoughts
Yeah,
that are getting you stuck.
sure. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Okay. And what has surprised you the most about life coaching?
Mm, well, definitely like at the beginning of just my first session of coaching with Kate, I was like, I don't really need this. Like, I'm okay. I'm an external processor. I'm very, introspective. I think I got this. What surprises me, I think, is that when I just need to sort through a thought or an idea, and I think I know what I need to do, or I think I know what I think about it already, I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Then sometimes you'll be like, okay, well, I have a question. Let's turn this around. And then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's more about me, or maybe there is something I could do to change where I feel I couldn't do anything before, or I'm like, well, I guess I could just have to live with it. That's just how life is, or that's just my personality. But just being able to kind of like change my thought about it. Often I'm shocked at the things I find out that are like living in my head that I didn't know was there, like a just like a predisposed thought about something, or I'm like, I didn't know I felt that way, or I burst into tears about something that I thought was like an old thing I didn't even, have any feelings about anymore. So just some things catch you off guard when you're not, when you put yourself in that sort of vulnerable position to just think about things, slow down and like process it. So that's what surprises me most, just what's in there that I haven't processed, even though I think I have, or
Right.
I'm I'm like, wait, I could do something about that. It's refreshing for sure.
Right. That's good. That's good.
Right. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I thought that way about that. About that. So it's good. Yeah.
Yes. And so why would you say someone should hire me as their coach? What type of person would you suggest?
What type of person would want to hire you? What?
Yes, like who would you suggest?
Well, because I think that you're great no matter who wants to talk to you. But um, I think that you actually bring a lot of different perspectives to the table too, because I mean, I think people think that when you go to have life coaching or counseling or something, that it's like it has to be a big issue or something. It has to be like need to work through something, or I need to be diagnosed, or I don't, or maybe I don't want to see a psychologist. I don't want to sit there and talk about my childhood or whatever. Or, well, to be able to have a life coach, I'm going to need to find someone that has it like perfectly all together. Um, like I don't, or whatever. But you can relate to people in a lot of ways over a lot of different things, just life experiences that you've had and things that you've gone through. So I think everyone, I personally think everyone can benefit from life coaching. But if you just need someone that can listen and help you process their thought, if you're an internal processor and you don't know how to verbalize things, I feel like Liz, you're very good at being like, okay, how could we say that out loud? Like, or just stop and actually say that out loud. Just the power of putting things into words. Or if you're an external and you think, oh yeah, I just need to talk about it. You're really super good at just redirecting, like, hang on now, you're going around in circles. Let's actually just focus in and move on to the next thing. So I mean anything from just feeling anxious about things or needing to move past something in a different way, get a new perspective on things, or um just you use that feeling stuck, that idea of just feeling stuck where you're just like, I really want to change this in my life, but I just can't, or I don't know how, or I don't think that I could change my mind about that. I don't know. You offer a wide like variety of experience of your own, but also just being able to help bring out what's already inside of me. Let's just say I already know what I probably should do about it, but you just help me to focus in and make steps on how to go to the next step in the journey or whatever. So I don't know. I know that's super general, but I really feel like you can help in a lot of different ways.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been so fun to work together.
Yes, it has been fun. Back and
Yes.
forth.
Yes. Okay. So how about we try doing some coaching live
Mhm.
on here? Well, it's not technically live, but it will be posted in lieu of live.
Right.
So what is on your mind today? We'll just kind of, just talk like we would as if it was just you and I here.
Yeah. So sometimes I think of things ahead of time than when I know that my session's coming up. And obviously knowing that we were gonna like post this, I was like, maybe I should think about this ahead of time. But it actually is just something that's fresh in my heart a lot lately. So my husband and I will be married for 20 years in July, a month and well, about 2 months away. And I don't know. I'm 40. I turned 40 in October. So I guess I just have been thinking a lot about like, wow, 20 years ago, where was I 20 years ago and who was I then? And 20 years ago, I wasn't married yet. And I was, anticipating a wedding, graduating from college and kids. Um, I was living at home still at this point 20 years ago. And now just like all of the things I've experienced since then. And like, if you would have told the 20-year-old me like this is what you're going to experience over the next 20 years, I probably would have been like, I can't, like I don't think I can do that. Sounds cool, but I'm not. I'd never lived overseas at this point 20 years ago. So just getting married, having kids, experiencing life overseas, losing my dad, I felt like I was a pretty young age to lose a parent, and
Definitely.
dealing with the grief and processing anger and everything that had to do with not having a good relationship with him, raising kids, marriage, my own emotional and mental health issues, watching people I love struggle with mental and emotional health issues, and like my job as a youth worker, my job currently now, which is working in an office, is totally different than what I was doing before. And so many different homes we've lived in. And I guess sometimes it's hard for me to process that Becca 20 years ago was the same, like is the same. See, I can't even like that Becca that was 10 years old or 20 years old or 40 years old is actually all the same person. Like it's the same heart, it's the same mind. I try to sort of, I don't know, like leave her back there. Like, oh, she was just a 20-year-old version of me. And it's hard for me to like bring those stages along with me. I don't know. I'm very disconnected with that sometimes. And like, I'm feeling blessed with all of the things that have happened, and like overwhelmed too. Like, oh gosh, I'm 40. Like, what have I done like with my life, or what is the next 20 years going to look like? I don't know. Just all those thoughts have really been just jumbling around in my head lately. And I don't know what to really do with them, whether I need to grieve or celebrate, or I don't know.
So when you think of your younger self, let's say you're 20 years ago, do you think fondly of her or do you really want nothing to do with her?
Mm, wow. She's totally different. And I think I like her. I do. But then I'm like, she was she just feels completely different to me than who I am today. So I guess she's nice. I guess I feel fondly about her. Like, well, we were just in Converse when we made that video at a Milk and Honey, and I was like, we used to work in Converse. Like, this is where we met. We met each other like 20 years ago. Well, just over that, and I'm just like, what in the world? Just kind of walking down memory lane, I guess. So I have fond memories, but I just feel like I don't know who was that person and who am I today.
So would
I
you say that you, excuse me, when you think of her, do you think, wow, I'm so proud of like how far she had come in her life up until that point and all that she'd been through. It's like it's almost like if you could look at it now, so if you're 40, that's halfway through. If today which it's not your last day, but in like when you look at it like that, your midlife would have been at 20. So if you're looking at
Right.
0 to 20, then 20 to 40. So it's like a halfway point at that point for you. So it's kind of like when you look at that and all that you've been through the 20 years leading up to that, and then thinking about, oh, you're getting ready to go through the 20 years following that. So do you feel a sense of pride or ownership in what you had overcome by that point?
I don't think I take time to give myself credit for things like that I've accomplished. I feel super sentimental that like my oldest kid is almost the age I was when I had my first job, and like she's gonna be 20 before. I don't know, it makes these like super emotional feelings come up, and maybe I haven't taken the time to be like, I'm just really proud of everything that like God has helped me to accomplish, or that I've been able to overcome, or like how I've learned and grown. I guess, maybe just that's part of feeling so emotional. I don't know. It's weird. It's like an overwhelming emotional, sentimental feeling of like looking back over 20 years. I cannot be the only person that feels this way either. Speaking
No.
because we're putting this on. So like it's just a strange it's just strange to try and process it all and like put it all together in my brain, I guess. So
Yes.
yeah, proud of her. You know me, so you know that that was a trick question. That's hard for me to say. Like, I'm proud of her back then, and I'm proud of myself now. That's an interesting thought.
Would you say that is it scary to think of your 20-year-old self knowing what you were going to go through after that point? Like, does it almost feel traumatic to think about, wow,
Yeah.
she is getting ready to go through so much trauma and she has no idea. Like, look out! Like, you almost want to warn
Yes.
her.
Well, maybe that's it too, because I knew I was gonna cry. Okay. So
Tears are
maybe that
welcome. Tears are welcome.
well, this is normal. But okay. So maybe that is it too, because I, that's how I feel. I'm like, she's so naive and young, and like she was just worried about working at Walmart or whatever, or waiting tables or whatever. I'm like, oh girl, just wait until you see what's gonna happen next. But then I think it also sort of triggers what's coming next in 20 more years. Like I don't
Um,
know.
do I
Maybe
have
that's
the
it.
stamina? Do I have the strength to do this again? Like a net, like 20 more times around the sun or whatever,
Yeah. What else is coming ahead? Which
Wow.
is amazing to think about. Look at everything that has happened in my life since I was 20. And it's been so fun and so incredible. Things I didn't think that I would be able to do, things I never thought I would be able to accomplish, or things I've done. But yeah, maybe it's just putting that timeline together of like, hey, I'm really proud of her, and I I can see growth, I can see excitement, and all those things, like you said, all this sort of tough days and trauma and grief and sadness or anxiety. Guess what? I made it through that.
Yes. Yes.
Which thought about that before. Like, yeah, it was hard, but I did it. And I'm so much stronger for all of that. And like,
Right.
maybe that's why I don't too.
And you get to take that all with you into the future.
Yes. And that's the part that I think I forget to do. I can bring her with me. Her like excited anticipation about like getting married and starting her life and what it's gonna look like. I don't have to leave that like, oh, you're just naive. like I can take that same excitement to like the next chapter or
So
watching my
good.
kids those. I've never thought about that because I just kind of leave it like, well, that was her back
Like
then.
that excited, hopeful self instead of seeing it as naive, because part of it is how you frame it, how you choose to look at it. So when you look back at the first 20 years, are you able to see the gems and the positive things that came from that? Or are you just, is your brain trained to look for the negative so that
Yeah.
you're protected from negatives, so that you're prepared in your mind for like what's coming that's negative? Or are you able to look and say, wow, this was really good, and this was really good, and this was really good?
Yeah.
So that then when you think of your future, you're like, instead of, man, think about what lies ahead, like, wow, think about what lies ahead.
Right. Like
Same
you said,
phrase, but from a different perspective.
oh yeah, or anticipate it instead. Like you said before, do I look at her and I'm like, beware, look out, like what's coming next? Yes, my brain naturally does that where I'm like, oh girl, you have no idea what's coming. And I couldn't, if you told me I was gonna have to do all that, I would have been like, nope, I'm hiding here. I'm staying here. I'm gonna live in a cave by myself or whatever. But that's just normally how my brain like views things. I'm like a little bit more pessimistic. So instead of being like that about the future or about like, oh gosh, look at everything, I could just be proud and anticipate and excited about, well, what are we going to look at in the next 20 years? And that is difficult for me to do, but it feels a lot better than being like, oh my gosh, how did I do that? And how am I going to do it 20 more times? 20 years in the
Okay.
future.
Right. Because so that feeling or that thought where you're saying, how am I going to do this 20 more times? So that's a thought, right? That's producing feelings of what?
Mm, like doom and gloom or anxiety or like, what if
Right.
I waste that year? Like, what if yeah, or like regret or whatever. Those are all very
Yes.
negative thoughts.
So then
Yeah.
going into the future, what kind of results are you going to get with those
Well,
thoughts, feelings?
that does not sound like a very good recipe for a successful 20 years.
Right. Okay. So what could you think instead about the next 20 years? How do you want to feel about the next 20 years when you think about it? How do you want to feel?
Or even the past 20 years, because I think a lot of times I hear people say a lot too, like, what if I could have done that better? Or, I mean, I say that to myself too, like, well, I regret a lot of things I could have done better or whatever. Or am I being effective or, doing, changing the world the way I want to? That's easier for me to think or say, or like that's the thoughts that I'm having. But it's like, what if I just could look back and be like, look at all these blessings and like all the things I have accomplished and all those things that you told that 20-year-old she's gonna move overseas, get on a plane, which she had also not done, and be scared of these things and be scared of things that are new or that you haven't faced before. And you're just gonna do it. And it's gonna be hard, but you're gonna get through it. But yeah, that sounds a lot better to be like, look what you've accomplished. And then who knows what's coming next. Hard things that you thought that you would never be able to face that you're going to.
But
And you're gonna
also amazing things that like mind cannot fathom, right? The
right.
gifts that God has prepared for those that love him, right? So
Yeah,
there's so much ahead. The best is yet to come.
that's crazy. I'm
How does
thinking of
that feel when you hear
well,
the phrase, the best is yet to come?
it feels like coming at it from a mindset of like strength instead of like lack or whatever. So
Yeah.
instead of being, well, I'm not gonna, no way I'm gonna be able to do that. Like, or yeah, what's coming next or whatever. Instead being like, I'm glad I'm sitting in my car. Look, got tissues right here. Um, looking at it from a place of strength. Like if I've grown this much over the last 20 years, like look what more could be coming. Like
Exactly. In a good
yeah,
way.
yeah. Oh yeah. Like look at the things that are coming, the exciting things or whatever, the growth
Or
that
like,
is
I have so much to look forward to.
yeah. Because that's probably yes, that is what that 20-year-old me was thinking. Like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get married next year, and then all the adventures we're gonna have, and I can't wait to, get married, be a pastor wife, have kids, be a mom. Like, I've also accomplished all of those things that were my dreams when I was 20. So maybe that is part of it too, where you're just like, well, I've accomplished all those things. Like, what now? Like, so thinking of that from that point, like anticipation and excitement that 20-year-old had, and not losing that, not just leaving it back there.
Exactly.
I have never thought about that before. It's different, and it's not what my natural thought.
Right, because your brain is trying to make you stay in a place of this false safety, this place where as long as we don't get our hopes up, we're good. But if we get our hopes up, if we expect that this might actually go well, we are bound to be disappointed and our life is going to be miserable.
Yep. And that is my natural brain. So instead of preparing for the worst, maybe we could expect the best. And that feels better, but very unnatural. So starting to think of it that way feels less of a grieving, and more of an anticipation or something of what is to come or
Right.
what's happened. Not grieving that we've lost all these years, and my kid's done with elementary school and he's going to junior high, and just watching kids or parents, they kind of are markers for your life going
How old your
along,
kids
and you're
were. Yes.
I thought they were a baby yesterday, and I feel like my grandma. I remember the day you were born, but you just, that's kind of life. That's naturally how it goes, and they mark different things, and then it makes you feel emotional and oh wow, what that time is gone or whatever. We're at preschool graduation last night and watching my nieces graduate preschool. Oh my gosh, they're never gonna be that young again. But look at how much they've accomplished and grown and how excited they are for the next stage of they're so excited to go to the next stage of life. Where the older you get, I feel it's I don't know, I feel more fear and trembling going into the next season of life.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And making sure that when you look back, you look through that lens of hope and expectation and a positive framework, so that then you're able to do that for the future. And not that you're with, everything is sunshine and rainbows, because it wasn't all amazing. But the
Right.
picture as a whole is a masterpiece that is amazing. And so there's so much to look forward to.
And that is really, yes, thinking of okay, the graduating from preschool me and the 10-year-old me and the 20-year-old me, they had a lot more of this excited, oh, what's next? I can't wait.
That's so good.
For my next birthday or whatever. And then when you're approaching 40 or 50 or something, you're I don't know whether I'm ready for my next birthday. But maybe tapping into that joy or that excitement that 20-year-old me had, anticipating the
Exactly.
next phase of life. I forget about her sometimes,
That's so good. That's so good.
And of course, it's emotional. That makes sense. Why? Especially if I'm looking at it from a negative perspective, like I usually do too. But yeah, no, that's super helpful.
Good. Well, and what's unique about our coaching experience is you do your coaching on your lunch break.
Yes.
Right? So you're literally on your lunch break right now.
Yes. In my car. And that shows that you can do coaching from anywhere. I don't have to lay on a couch and be like, talk to me about my
Right.
child something.
Right. Right. So it's got the flexibility, but hopefully that has shifted your mind so you can go back into work with another perspective and uplifted and encouraged. Do you have any final thoughts or questions?
Well, that was a whirlwind of just taking 20 years and condensing it down into 20 minutes.
It's like a Hallmark movie or something, a Lifetime movie, right?
Yeah, Hallmark. It's a movie trailer to do my 20 minutes movie trailer. And now this season 2 is coming out soon.
Yes.
But it gives you something to shift into. Why am I doing what I'm doing today? And what am I anticipating?
Right, because when you think I have so much to look forward to, or what's next, that feels hopeful, right?
Yeah, well, it feels much better than like, oh my gosh, 20 years have passed already.
Right.
That is a very overwhelming thought to have, which you have to grieve that too, I suppose.
Absolutely. You
But like,
don't want to ignore your emotions. You don't change your thoughts to like as an excuse to ignore your emotions. But once you've felt that and processed that through, then embracing this new thought that propels you forward in excitement.
That's crazy. Yeah, that is a much better feeling. And I think that I will have to keep reminding myself of this when I feel like, oh my gosh, that year is gone now or whatever. Just reminding myself of like the positive way to think about that. But no, that's
Yeah.
what I've
Practicing
been
that
missing.
thought and looking for evidence of why that's true. Why it's true that you have so much to look forward to. You know, all of a sudden your daughter runs a marathon and she does a great job. It's like, oh yeah, I do have so much to look forward to. I would have missed this.
Yeah, like, whoa,
You know,
how did that happen? Yep.
it's like I don't want to miss this.
Yeah.
You know?
Sounds you should write a song.
Oh shoot. This has been so fun. Thank you for being willing to be vulnerable with the world and you know who knows is watching. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And we were going to do Q&A, but if there's like questions or comments or whatever, I mean, I guess I can see them too when they're, you know, like if they're popping back up, and then we can just, whenever you post this or whatever.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
We might attempt to try live again. We shall see.
Together, that would be even more fun. Actually,
yes.
and
That's
we could do
true. We might have to do that instead. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so any questions anybody has for Becca, feel free to put those in the comments. Any questions you have for me about coaching, put those in the comments and we can do a part 2 if you want. So this is super fun. Thank you and have a great day. I hope you got some lunch at some point.
Oh yeah, I'll eat now.
Okay. All right. See you later.
See ya.
Bye.